Are we all holding space for today's review? I hope so. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we are chatting about probably one of the more highly anticipated films yet to come out this later half of the year, and that is Wicked for Good. It is the epic conclusion to Jon M.'s Wicked, which came out last year. For the first film, I kind of wasn't the biggest fan in the world. Well, actually, I take it back. I did like it, but I don't know, I wasn't necessarily swept up in the magic of it all. So, we were going into this level-headed, wasn't really sure where things would lie, but I am happy to report that I quite enjoyed Wicked for Good. I'm not sure how a lot of other people will feel about this film, but as far as I'm concerned, I enjoyed it. Like in Wicked, we have another crazy, talented, and stacked cast with returning members Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jonathan Bailey, Ethan Slater, Marissa Bodie, Michelle Yeoh, and Jeff Goldblum. And if you are not familiar with the second act of Wicked and the story of Wicked for Good, it basically follows a few years after the events of Wicked, where Elphaba Throp, now known as the Wicked Witch of the West, is still fighting for animal rights and living as a fugitive, while Glinda, who is now called Glinda the Good, she is this very loved public figure who is watched over by the wizard and Madame Morrible, and they are basically spreading propaganda about Elphaba and how she is like the worst thing to ever happen to them. She is a menace to society. She must be stopped. There is a lot of just bad vibes, lots of fake news going on in the world of Oz. As I said, this half of the musical, this half of the story really deals with a lot of more emotional aspects, very dark aspects of this world too. We have learned that the wizard does not actually have any powers, even though, again, the people of Oz are being told that he is the best thing since sliced bread. Madame Morrible is quite horrible, and she has some very interesting plans in order to get Elphaba off of her high horse, or I suppose high broom in this instance. And then Glinda just doesn't really know what to do exactly. She loves being this public persona. She loves the attention that she's getting, but she's also quite conflicted about everything, and especially because she and Elphaba shared such a wonderful relationship and grew to love each other and have a beautiful bond. And now that everybody is against her, she doesn't really know how to handle that. I think what really impressed me more so with this story was truly Ariana Grande's performance. I found her to be so nuanced as she is battling these inner feelings that she's facing, the cognitive dissonance, so to say, of having to portray a person who is anti-Elphaba and so against the Wicked Witch, but really she just loves her and cares about her and doesn't really know how to help her and if she should help her. I found a really nice performance from her in that regard. And I really liked her in the first film too. She was very playful and bubbly and all the things that people love about that character. But I really found that she shined in a number of different ways in this part of the film. Cynthia Erivo kind of takes a bit of a backstep in this story. A lot more attention is put on Glinda and her whole story, but I suppose because we got Cynthia's arc in the first film, a lot of this is continued with this story, and she's still very much fighting for the animals. She's still standing by all of the values and things that she believes and knows are right in this film. And I mean, there really is nothing wrong that she does in this role whatsoever. She's still a powerhouse vocalist. I mean, No Good Deed is a pretty wonderful sequence that we get to see from her, and I think that's played off quite well, especially as she is flying out into the world and going to her lair, so to speak. We get a number of interactions with Cynthia and Ariana throughout the film, and it's interesting to see how they are kind of trying to work out this new relationship between the two of them. Glinda keeps trying to get Elphaba on her side to kind of drop things, or at least just talk to the wizard so that they can be on the same page, so that people aren't against her. And Elphaba is always very reluctant to do it. She doesn't trust the wizard. She doesn't trust a lot of the people in charge in Oz, and it's understandable because they have literally painted her to be the bad guy. But I love whenever these two get a moment to just be themselves and kind of fall back into their loving and playful ways. I think that they just bring so much light and love to these characters. And especially in the centerpiece showcase moment of this film, which is For Good. The opening notes of that song always kill me, and I was crying. They got me with this one. I didn't cry in the first film, and so I was very nervous. Will For Good finally get me to shed a tear? And yes, it did. These two heavily falling throughout the sequence. But it's just a beautiful moment, and it is shot so beautifully as well. And you feel the full emotional weight between them and also within Ariana and Cynthia. I'm sure that is such an important sequence to them, and they really wanted to showcase how much this journey has meant to them both, and I think that they really deliver in that aspect. Once again, the crafts are beautiful in this film. I mean, Paul Tazwell's gowns and dresses and costumes are just immaculate. I love the big, colorful and poofy gowns that Galinda is wearing, and the robes that Elphaba gets to wear too. They're so dramatic and so intricate. The production design too is very wonderful. We get to revisit a lot of places that we've already seen, like the inside of the wizard's home, and we get to see that big mask once again. We see behind the scenes and behind the curtains of his world, but also just being able to see inside of Galinda's home and all of these settings. It's so beautiful and so pink. The closet is gorgeous. And then contrasting all of that with like the yellow brick road as that is being built, and Elphaba's lair up in wherever she is hiding. It's very dark, it's very naturalistic. I really did enjoy a lot of the nature scenes as well. Now, not everything is perfect, and I have a couple of little critiques / things that I thought were awkward or clumsy. There are some sequences that are either just kind of rushed through quite quickly in the script, or I don't know, just kind of seem a little awkward in the way that they are placed and framed, and also just why they're there. There's a scene where Nessa Rose and Elphaba are reunited after some time, and that one is quite pivotal because of actions that lead to a big change in one character. But it just kind of seemed a little too rushed for me. It was a little hasty, and Nessa Rose's character in general just kind of does and says some things where I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. I won't necessarily reveal all of that. I'll kind of let you guys discover it as you see it. But I just remember that kind of being that was kind of strange. I'm a little conflicted too about some of the Wizard of Oz sequences. On the one hand, I like the way that they are interloped into this story, and thankfully we don't get to see those sequences, I guess, remade and, showcased again, because we have one of the best movies of all time to be able to watch and reference anytime we want. And I know that there are some people who are probably going to think that they just feel awkward the way that they're placed in there. Like, for example, we're always just kind of seeing the back of Dorothy's head and just seeing her silhouettes, which I think is very much how the musical does it from what I remember. But maybe some people might not necessarily like that. I was okay with it for the most part. The one thing that I did just feel was really awkward and just kind of felt, I don't know, just so strange for the relationship and what happens between these two characters. It is after Dorothy's house falls on top of Nessa Rose. Elphaba comes to mourn her sister. Galinda is there. And then these two just have a fight, like a broomstick versus wand fight. And I don't know, it just kind of felt weird to have that, in all honesty. They were just fighting about a lot of different things. They're fighting about Fiyero as well, because he has quite a bit of a change of heart, so to say, between Galinda and Elphaba. And so, I don't know, it was just a bit of a strange sequence that, for myself, I didn't really need it. And then I had a problem with the cinematography the first time around. I just felt that the colors were so muted and so gray and looked pretty dull for the most part. And for the most part, they are pretty much the same here too. I just cannot forgive them for making Shiz not truly sparkle and look so vibrant, because that's what that world should look like. I think in some ways they get away with it, especially when it comes to the Elphaba sequences, where that in general is more darker. But still, there are just many moments in the world of Oz, in Munchkinland, where I'm just like, ugh, why is it so gray and so muted? It should not be looking like my sweatshirt. But overall, I still enjoyed this movie. I cried, as I said. There are some pretty great song and dance numbers in here as well. Again, if you are a huge fan of the first half of this musical over the second half, you might not love this one quite as much, but it's okay. You know, you have the first half to keep revisiting. It is kind of crazy that altogether this is a 5-hour movie. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be that long. I will also admit I have not rewatched Wicked since watching it last year, so I'm gonna have to do that to really see how I feel about that story, especially now that I have seen both of them. So we shall see. Maybe I end up entirely changing my mind and all of this will have been a huge lie, but I hope not. I kind of go back and forth on what I want to give Wicked for good. I think for today I'm going to settle on 3.5 stars out of 5. Like I said, the performances are quite nuanced. I really enjoyed them, and especially Ariana Grande. And the crafts, again, are just really beautiful. It's a beautiful, magical setting, but it still has its flaws here and there. But let me know what you guys think below in the comments. I'm very curious to see and read what people think about this film, because again, it's a little divisive with Act 2. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you here next time.